The Zora Festival and cultural heritage tourism is about economic development. It's about the ability for this community to prosper based on its culture, its heritage, and its history. And so, when the Orange County Public School Board determined that it was going to sell that land that's now vacant there, that says no trespass, that was a direct assault against cultural heritage tourism. Because if you're going to put another community in this community, and this is not about rhetoric, it's just a practical reality, you're going to be erased. Those of you who are old enough to remember the 1960s and urban renewal, you know urban renewal, right? Well, that was called Negro removal, because you got to work. In order to garner the kind of attention that we needed to have, number one, in addition to actually making the case, we had to file a lawsuit. And lawyers do not file lawsuits frivolously because they can lose their license, all right? So this is not about a game or political, this is how do you work and make the system work on your behalf.
One of my great heroes and the author, Octavia Butler, wrote in her book, Parable of the Sower, there is no end to what the living world demands of you. And that is a testament to Eatonville. It was the courage, the perseverance, the vision and creativity of the founders of Eatonville who built this town in 1877. It is one of the last remaining towns incorporated by African Americans after the Civil War. And it continues that legacy today. It sets the vision of what Afrofuturism sought to achieve, a better, more prosperous, more just society where African Americans and Black folks could live freely and choose their own future. That is why the SPLC is such an honored organization to be partnering with the Association for the Preservation of the Community of Eatonville, TRISTS. And we're here because we recognize that land justice is economic justice, is racial justice. And that's what we're here to do, to support all of you and your efforts. That we support economic development led by Eatonville, led by the residents and the people of this community.
Hi, my name is Paula Kay. I am the Florida State Director, and we are so excited to be representing our sisterhood throughout the state of Florida. Over 2,000 ladies have donated to make sure that we have the Children's Corridor here at the Zora Neale Hurston Festival. We are excited to have the children come in, do some make and takes, where they're able to do some arts and crafts, some really cool things to represent the heritage of Zora Neale Hurston. Thank you again. We are excited. Please stop by the Zora Neale Hurston Festival and the Mosley House while you're here in the area.
Hello, my name is Rosa Pickett, and I serve as president of the Zeta Educational Thespian Association, Incorporated. It's the 501c3 that oversees the operations of the Mosley House Museum. And the Mosley House Museum works with Florida State Leadership Conference of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. As a matter of fact, it serves as the state headquarters for the Florida State Leadership Conference, which means we store materials, we have files here, what have you. But mostly as a museum, we're open for tours and to share the history of Eatonville and its connection with our Zora Neale Hurston. The Eatonville itself is history. Most places you'd have things to go and touch, but in Eatonville, the history is Eatonville itself. When you look at the early settlers, as the Mosleys were, as the Clarks were, and families that are still here, and then to find a property that we can restore, like the Mosley House, and help maintain that as a piece of the history. And then that Zeta and Thespian can serve as stakeholders in preserving that history that is Eatonville. When children come through here, we're able to talk to them about early Eatonville. We're able to talk to them about the town of Eatonville, talk with them about how African Americans settled this town and developed their own government. And even these hundreds of years later, are still able to maintain that they can actually feel it and touch it, and that they're living history right here through this property. And Zeta, by maintaining it, we were part of that, to restore that history and preserve it. My fear is that once you open the door, then development will come, and Eatonville and the history that's Eatonville will be wiped out. And that would be a severe loss, not only to us as a people, but to American history, because that's what Eatonville is.
Zora Neale Hurston, a real finer Zeta.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone we should emulate. And we got to remember that if this is her hometown and she was a member of Zeta Phi Beta, it had better stay in the hands of Zeta Phi Beta. In the early 80s, Zeta Phi Beta held its Boule here. Zora, I keep thinking, Treat was the president, and they were having a 4th of July picnic over here, and we came as guests. And it was at that time that she decided to ask the Zetas to become a part of the festival. Well, part of Eatonville. It wasn't even a festival. And the schools would sign in, teachers, number of adults, and number of students. And we would have no less than 2,000 on a Friday. And we would have Zetas from all over the state to come and work on the projects. For instance, the most favorite project was a Zora hat. And I hope we'll keep that in some kind of way. And everything was based on the objectives for the state of Florida, educational objectives. And we would make sure we would have some activity for language arts, math, science, and of course social studies.
My name is Winnie Hurston. I'm the great-great-niece of Zora Neale Hurston. Well, I am here to embrace the historic culture of Eatonville, as well as the legacy of my aunt, Zora Neale Hurston. Oh God, we're so proud, and we have to also give great thanks to all the volunteers as well as NY The Theory, because this would not exist without their hard work. But we realize that it would not happen without them, as well as all the patrons that come year after year for the past 35 years. The land was designated for the education of Black families, and that's what it needs to be utilized for. It's necessary to sustain the historic culture of Eatonville. We are the first Black town incorporated in 1887. You just don't throw that legacy away. You don't.